everyone. Welcome to the thru Recovery Life Podcast. Today we have Adam from Chicago sharing his experience, strength, and hope with us, and here to tell us what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. So without further ado, I give you Adam. Adam in Chicago. Go ahead, Adam.
Thanks, John. Thanks so much for having me. And this is really an honor to be able to speak on the podcast. It's been quite a journey. Ever since I was young, I experienced issues with addiction. And I didn't get help for that for a long time just because I mostly didn't know where to get help, and I didn't want help because I was in denial about my issues. So I'm just going to start back with when I was young, what started, how it started, and I was really innocent, and I was raised pretty well, but I had a really dysfunctional family structure. Father was basically abandoning the family a lot of times, and there was a lot of trauma involved. My father was into a lot of criminal activity. So it was like we were always moving from house to house. There was very little stability. And my mother wasn't able to perform like a mother normally would because she was being abused too. And so, I reached out to be with friends, and I picked a lot of the wrong people to hang out with. And that led me down a path which was very destructive because they were just, I was looking for friends, and I picked the wrong friends. And so my first experience using drugs and alcohol was somewhere around 17 years old when I went to college. That was really one of the first times when I was in the dorm room pretty young. I graduated high school a year early, and these guys asked if I wanted to try some vodka. So I kind of had this brave mentality where I wanted to be the strongest, and so I drank a whole bunch of that stuff because it really tasted nasty, and ended up going out rollerblading, drunk, crashing into the parking lot arms that let cars into the parking lot. It was just really weird behavior. And after that I started going out to bars with the guys, playing racquetball, not going to class, and it was almost like I just wanted to be there socially. And I ended up dropping out of college after 3 months just because I didn't really care or know that I needed to care. And then, so after that, I ended up getting a job, and I left college and figured I'd get a job, and got a job at this restaurant waiting tables. And the cook, after a few months of being there, the cook and I became friends, and he was a really cool guy, and he was a lot older than I was, and he asked me if I'd give him a ride home one day because he didn't have a car. So sure, yeah. And then he invited me in for a beer, which was, I thought really friendly. I didn't think nothing of it. I didn't really have a drinking problem at that time that I thought. But then after I had the beer, then him and his buddy pulled out crack pipes, and it was almost like he planned it that way, because I had never seen that stuff before. I didn't even know what it was. And he asked me if I'd like to try it. And so I was immediately addicted after that. And I said yes, and then after 3 months of basically selling everything and confessing to my girlfriend at the time that I had done that, she broke off the engagement. We were engaged. And it really, that was like the start of the destruction. And after I had experienced that strong addiction to alcohol and crack, then I tried getting back on track. I was able to stopped for maybe a year and a half. But then I started hanging out with another buddy because my girlfriend was gone. So I was kind of filling my time with his friendship. And he had a heroin addiction. I didn't know that until, 6 months later when he offered it to me. And I said yes. I was really not making good decisions. And I ended up getting physically addicted to it after a few casual tries, trying that. And so it was all downhill after that. Um, I ended up going to the west side of Chicago for long periods of time and looking for more, drinks, drugs, whatever it was, just to almost I felt like fulfill like an anxiety that was inside of me. When I did the drugs and alcohol, it got rid of that anxiety for me, and it helped me to feel like almost like feel like myself. I didn't feel like myself for a long time when I was growing up, and uh, I ended up getting caught for a lot of retail thefts to support my habit. And then because of the people I was hanging out with on the west side, they taught me how to make money for drugs, in a lot worse ways, like doing armed robberies and burglaries and all kinds of terrible things. And it got to the point where we were even stealing from the drug dealers at gunpoint. And I don't, I'm not proud of that life at all. And it actually is pretty scary to me now that I actually did that. But I was under the influence of very strong drugs and alcohol. And, my story, it's a good one because I was able to come back from that. And I was able to overcome that. And for many years, I kept going down that road until I ended up in prison in my mid 30s. And the experience in prison for a year really affected me, and I I had a chance to read the Bible and just sit and think about my life. And so when I got out, I uh, I wanted to make a change, but I really didn't know what recovery was. I had been to AA and NA a few times, in the past. Actually, I did a 90 and 90 in my 20s, but I still really didn't understand the program and understand the real foundation of the spiritual enlightenment of the program because I didn't even have uh, a spiritual experience by that time yet, So um, the when I got out, I didn't go to anymore. I was still in denial at that point when I got out of prison, and I thought that I could just keep going the way I was going. I met a girl, we got engaged, we were smoking pot and drinking martinis together. It felt like it was perfectly normal, socially accepted, and once in a while on the weekends, every 4 to 6 months, I'd still end up running down to the city to get the hardcore drugs after drinking a little. And it seemed like I always had this cycle where I would think, it's okay to drink, and then I drink, and then after I started drinking, then my animal lizard brain would take over, and I could basically think I could do anything, get away with anything, and it was like the evil side of me, just wanting to fulfill my evil desires and passions. And there's a good part of me too, though. I feel like I have an angel on one side of my shoulder and a devil on the other. So I was always in battle with the imbalance there. And whenever I, took drugs or alcohol into my system, it always leaned towards the dark side, which I've come to understand is, a battle for everyone. But when you introduce alcohol into that and other stuff, it does not make it easy to stay on the good side. Matter of fact, it's almost impossible. So I gotta say that I I ended up breaking off that relationship because it was really toxic. We just didn't see eye to eye. I don't need to get into details about that, but what happened after that was I ended up getting into more social drinking again at bars where there were dancers, and I was looking for companionship, and I would end up doing drinking and doing drugs with the girls, and it was just a terrible situation because uh we weren't looking out for each other at all. It was we were using each other, and even though I at the time I thought, wow, this is great, I could go do all this stuff and have fun, and that's the way I used to think, but I was really in a state of spiritual illness, and and it was very unhealthy. So I guess I'd consider myself a pretty slow learner because for a long time I thought I was being honest with myself, and that I thought, okay, well, I want to be honest with myself and the people around me, so I'm just going to do what I think I want to do, and I'm not going to be ashamed of it. But what I found out was that my perspective was skewed. It was off. It was terribly off, and I and that's not really what I wanted, and I don't know why I thought that way, but I did. So then after doing the bars and all that stuff, then COVID came around, and this is almost what 20 years into my addiction, and then when COVID came around, I just lost it, and I got really bad again. I started going to the inner city again, and I actually started committing some retail thefts again, which I thought I would never do again after prison. But I was just doing it basically to support my habit. But I was living out on the street again. I was driving prostitutes around to make money, and all kinds. I started selling drugs myself, and it was almost like I had a lot more knowledge at that time of the street life, and I was able to actually um, survive a little bit longer on the streets, and it was to my detriment that I knew those things. So I ended up getting, because on the streets now there's fentanyl, and I got hit with fentanyl a couple times, and they were in car accidents. So I ended up destroying a couple cars, getting 3 DUIs, ending up in the psych ward once voluntarily, another time involuntarily. And I remember looking out the window at the hospital in the psych ward. I was up on the 5th floor, and the fireworks were going off. And I was just kind of like thinking, boy, I'm sitting in here looking out the window at the fireworks, and it's like I just didn't feel like I was in the right place. I wanted to be part of the celebration of the Independence Day. So I ended up choosing Independence Day for the 4th of July for my sobriety date because I just thought it, was a good fit for independence and freedom from addiction. And I made a, when I had like a aha moment when I saw those fireworks, and I was just like, you know what, I gotta admit that I have a problem. I gotta ask for help. Otherwise, I'm going to die. And at that point, I had a broken ankle because I was stumbling around the neighborhood once after I took fentanyl. I didn't know what I was doing. I broke my ankle, and then I ended up having a infection in my head. A huge cyst was growing off the sides of my head, like the side of my head, like the size of a golf ball. And they had to do operation to remove the inside of it. It was just terrible. I didn't, and then after they took it off, the hair wasn't growing on my head. I thought it was just never going to come back, but thank God it did. And um, so I've been through a lot of suffering, and and it wasn't an easy road. It was a terribly hard path to take. Even though I thought those things, the alcohol and the drugs, were making me feel better, they were just temporarily fixes, and they were actually taking me down real fast. Um, so on the other side of this, though, there's the beautiful story of my recovery, which is the point where I started asking for help and started broadening my perspective in recovery, and that started with asking uh, the center at the county health department for help. I was almost suicidal at that point, and you know, I mentioned to the people at the hospital that I was suicidal. I didn't want to live at that time because my life had just been like almost destroyed, and I lost, everything. So many times. I lost everything so many times, maybe 20 times or more, and I had almost felt like I just wanted to give up. I can't do this anymore. And so I got back in touch with my sponsor, who I had for at least 10 years, but we weren't in real close contact because I was still running the streets, and he wasn't going to chase me. And I had to figure out that this program is is a do-it-yourself program with other people, but you have to take the steps yourself. You have to work the steps. You have to want to work the steps. You have to want to get better. I had to want to get better. And I used to think, why isn't my sponsor calling me because he knows I'm messing up? Why isn't he calling me and checking me, right? And and he has like over 40 years clean. And I actually came to realize that, I had to do it. I had to do it. So I ended up having a spiritual awakening in church, actually, not through the program, but through confession and, doing examination of conscience. And then I also gave a testimony in front of my church at the time. And with all of the people accepting me, um, after I had told, all these terrible things I did, I really felt like I was accepted, and it really helped me to have a wonderful spiritual awakening. I saw the world around me in a new way. Um, and I was more aware of my emotions. I was more aware of myself and the people around me in a way that I never had experienced before. And it felt like heaven. I'm not going to, at the first time I experienced it, I didn't understand it. I tried asking people what was going on. And now I know, a lot of people in the program have that spiritual awakening due to working the steps, because it's a matter of, getting all the guilt out of our mind and making up for the wrong we did. And then, things work out for the better and we can see things more clearly. It's, the eyes are the window of the soul. And there's a lot of truth to all this stuff in the spiritual world that, people think like, now I'm not going to, quote this for sure, but I'll tell you one thing, like, I think a spiritual enlightenment is here on earth for us. You know what I mean? The afterlife is here after we die to ourselves and give up all our selfish desires and stop thinking about ourselves and start thinking about other people. So, I want to give back today because I have something to give back. I didn't used to have anything to give because I was just always thinking about myself. And um, I feel good about that. I feel good. I'm at peace. Internally, I'm really at peace, and I didn't used to ever feel that way. I always felt like I needed to have something to fill myself, to feel like myself. And after I had that spiritual awakening, I feel like myself more than ever, 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 ever I ever did. And even after I had that spiritual awakening, I didn't start acting like a saint or anything like that right away or nothing. I actually had a lot of bad habits that still carried over into that took a while for me to get rid of. And I'm still working on it today. I've got a little over 860 days right now. So that's almost 2 years and 4 months, but I haven't had this much clean time. And there's a reason for that because I'm asking for help. I'm admitting that I got an issue with using drugs, and that's key. And the spiritual walk that we walk, it can't be done alone. It just can't be. And and the reason for that is because it's not easy to measure that on a scale with you know It's not like going on a scale and measuring your weight and saying, "Oh, I need to lose 20 pounds or gain weight or whatever." It's spiritual path is done by experience, so it's best done with a mentor or a sponsor or a counselor or whoever, anyone who's been down the path longer and further than you on their journey is a good, candidate to be a sponsor or a counselor or, just a friend. And there's so many people out there that want to help people with addiction issues. So, I didn't used to think that. I used to think that I was an outcast and that I was afraid to ask for help because I would be judged. And that prevented me from getting a lot of help a lot sooner. And this life of addiction is very destructive. I've lost a lot of wonderful opportunities. I've destroyed a lot of wonderful friendships. I don't want to look back and think what could have been, but there's facts involved too. I did destroy a lot of things and did lose a lot of opportunities, but I got my sights set on the present and the future, and I'm hopeful and I'm very positive minded and I feel great. Even though I'm still in the struggle, I feel amazing because I know I'm going in the right direction. And I think that's what really matters in this path is what direction we're headed in. I don't think it matters where we're at as much as it does our direction. We could be sitting in the gutter, but as long as we're turning it to the positive, turning it to the light instead of the dark, we can feel all right knowing that our soul is going to be in good hands, as long as we keep striving for goodness, fight the good fight and and do the next right thing for yourself and for people around you. If it's not me and you, then who's it going to be? This is like a program of action, and good intentions only get us so far. We got to actually do the work. And the funny thing about that is that our minds work that way too. When you go to the gym, do you ever feel like going to the gym before you go to the gym? A lot of times it's like hard work and it's very painful. But once you get there, you feel like you want to stay there because it feels so good. So sometimes we have to take the action before we get the reward emotionally. And I think that's a really important point to make here because a lot of times when we're in the, throes of our addiction, we think, oh, we feel terrible. We're going through withdrawal and, we don't feel good, even though we start taking steps in the right direction. We got to realize it's going to take a while. This path is not a short path. It's a long journey, but it's so, so worth it. It really is because, even there was times when I didn't want to live anymore. I was in a sick mindset and now I do want to live because it's a beautiful life. So when life gets better, when our perspective broadens, and when the pain starts to reside a little bit, even if you still have suffering, you can still be very happy. And that's the paradox of it all. So I'm still working on my journey. I'm broadening my group of friends. I'm becoming a person of service in AA, and I'm actually going to classes to become a recovery coach, which I never thought I'd do, but uh, I just want to help the next guy along. And if they could benefit from listening to my story, that's what I want to do, you know. Uh, and I think that helps me too. It really does because after I stepped up to do service, I feel like, it's important for me to be a role model and I have responsibility and, I can't let people down. I don't want to let people down. And, this is a very serious thing because our lives are at stake. It's not like, you go to high school and you fail an exam and you can retake it. No, that's not how this works. This is life and death. And, it's just a beautiful thing to be able to have an opportunity. It's a blessing to be in recovery after all the things I've been through. And for anyone else out there that, it doesn't have hope right now, I just want to say that it if you take the steps and you try and you ask for help, that's really the really most important part of starting a path of recovery. And to try and have hope and pray. Or if you don't pray, just focus your mind on, trying to think about, meditating or something. There's a path for everyone, and not everyone has the same, religion or beliefs, and that's okay, because what I've discovered is that um, our beliefs are really what we see. You know what I mean? Like, there's times when I had faith and when I didn't have faith. And those times I didn't have faith, I didn't have any belief in a higher power or God. But the times I did have faith, and I did seem to have ability to see my higher power and heavenly experiences. So it's really interesting how our minds work. Our imagination is very powerful, and the things that we believe are actually what we see. And a lot of people think it's the other way around. They want to see things first, and then they say, "Oh, I believe now because it's proven to me." Well, that's not really how our minds work. And according to my experience, it's usually the way, what we imagine in our minds is what becomes our reality. So my name is Adam, and I'm from Chicago, and I'm so grateful and honored to be here to talk to you and share this with you. And John, I appreciate this opportunity, and thank you everyone for listening.
Adam, fantastic, man. Great job, Adam. I was a racquetballer myself. Got a torn rotator cuff, and I don't want to have surgery, so haven't played in years. Still have my stuff though. Uh,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah,
Yeah, racquetball is it's a great game. It really is.
I mean, you can go out there your first day and have fun. If you get some, if you're a novice and you play against another novice your first day, you'll have a great time. If you're a B player, you get to play another. Yeah, I love it, man. Uh,
Yeah,
and then
it's awesome.
you touched on something. I love what Father Martin says. Father Martin says that Alcoholics Anonymous is a self-help program in a way. And uh, what he talks about is that doctors do not cure, doctors do not heal, except maybe for a surgeon. Maybe a surgeon can remove something and, that will cure something. But otherwise, doctors diagnose and then they prescribe. And that's all they do. And
Yeah,
after they prescribe, first of all, I had to go to the doctor. And then after the doctor prescribes, I have to go get that medication filled. And the doctor is not going to come to my house and, give me the pills or however, many a day. I have to, I have to take the pills, medication myself,
that's right.
and the same thing you mentioned. And Alcoholics Anonymous, I tell people, it's your higher power and your own efforts. You have to go to a meeting. You have to get a sponsor. You have to do the steps and your higher power will help you. So yeah, it's not, you mentioned self-help to some people and immediately they, balk, they have a reaction, but no, that's very interesting. I love the way he puts it. And you said basically the same thing. You have to put the work in and your higher power will help you. I really
Yeah,
appreciate that. Yeah, I appreciate you found the Zoo crew, man, and that you're of service with us. Go ahead.
thanks, John. I really appreciate that. That means a lot to me. And I also have heard Father Martin's Chalk Talk, and I've had it on CD. I was looking for it a couple weeks ago because my sponsor told me about it, and it's just so good. I love it, and I'm looking for it. It's on one of my bookshelves somewhere, so I hope I find it soon. But yeah, that's so true. It's important to take the steps and do the work, and it reminds me of that movie. It was a movie about two boys, or a boy with two hounds, and I forget the name of it, but it was an old movie, and the boy, a little boy got two hounds. He ordered them, and they came on the train and got delivered. He got his two hunting hounds, and he was learning, and his grandfather and his father were teaching him how to go hunting. And there was a part in the story where uh, the grandfather or the father, I think, was teaching the boy that God will help you if you meet him halfway.
Yes,
You got to
exactly.
do your part. You got to do your part.
Yeah, God will move mountains. I believe God does move mountains. But you know what, Adam? I better bring a big shovel.
That's right.
Better bring a
That's
shovel.
right.
You know,
Yeah.
and, and there was a time when I used to subscribe to the philosophy, that God is my pilot and I'm the co-pilot. But no, nowadays I think it's the reverse. God is my GPS. I am the pilot. If you
Yeah.
take your hand, if I take my hand off the wheel, I'm going to crash. He's not going to come
Yeah.
down and fight for me. Uh,
And I want to share something else too, is that the perspective a lot of people have, like on spirituality and living in the Garden of Eden, or whatever, like the peace, the heaven. A lot of people think that that's something they need to like reach out and find, that it's outside of themselves. And really, the truth is that it's really already inside of us. It's just that we have to remove the obstacles, and then it's there. You know what I mean? It's just amazing how that works, though. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Do you agree with that, or do you?
Adam, you got to listen to A New Pair of Glasses by Chuck C. That's
Okay.
that's what he says. He got it from Father a priest. That yeah, the difference between heaven and earth is putting on a new pair of glasses. I'm paraphrasing, and I may not remember it correctly, but I know his talk. And many people think A New Pair of Glasses is a book, but it's really a talk that he gave over a weekend, and that they transcribed that talk into writing, into a book. He
Oh,
didn't write
okay.
it. It's a talk, and you got to hear the talk. So Chalk Talk, I believe, is on our website. Go to our website, and I'm sure you can find Chalk Talk on there. And I'll have to put on a new pair of glasses on there as well. It's a great talk by Chuck Chamberlain.
Okay. Thank you. I've not heard of that one yet. A
Oh, a
new
new
pair of
pair of
glasses.
glasses. Oh my
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
that thing is classic. And
Oh,
that is,
okay.
he has such an infectious laughter. I mean, phenomenal guy. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Hey, all right, Adam. Thank you, man. Thank you very much. And you'll be doing the same thing tonight at our 7 p.m. speaker meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, all right. Have a Thank you, Adam. Have a great day.
Thanks, John.